Welcome back to Forza Naples. My name's Ian. Paul is still traveling, so we have brought another special co-host off the bench. He was actually our first guest on the show back after we lost to the Rowdies. Michael, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, thanks for having me. Doing better than the pitches and down in Sarasota or up in Sarasota. That was a nightmare situation, but I think the FC Naples players enjoy having a little bit more rest, and they welcome in a tired AV Alta side.
Yeah, thankfully they think the game was called off after seeing pictures of the pitch. I know it looked pretty bad storms up in Sarasota, and kind of glad we didn't have to play on that because just risking all the injuries and everything. Coming in now to preview this AV Alta game on Wednesday night. Love a midweek game, and we especially love a midweek game with a little bit of extra rest. AV Alta fell 3-2 at the weekend to Richmond Kickers. AV Alta currently sitting in 7th place, having played 20 games, sitting on 29 points. Richmond Kickers have played 18 games. They're on 15 points, so they're actually below FC Naples still. What do you think is going to factor into this one then on Wednesday night as AV Alta comes to town with a little bit more tired legs?
I think it's going to be two teams that are going to be desperate for points, desperate for a victory, and I think Naples has the advantage being the home squad. AV Alta, look, they fought back. They did make it an interesting game against Richmond. That's going to be the one thing that makes me nervous as a Naples fan. Delgado just hasn't looked the same. Josh is still with Jamaica, so it's gonna be his game, and this defense just hasn't looked solid. We can go back to last year and talk about how strong it was, to have the duo in front of Delgado. This is not those players, and it's tough. And anytime you change coaches, you hope for that bump, but we just haven't seen it yet. And Zach Gordon has a lot of work to do, and a very limited amount of time to do it to try to get Naples into a playoff spot.
Yeah, I think we talked about last week. The games are coming fast now at Zach Gordon, and if something's going to have to happen in order for us to get into the playoffs, we did get a sneak peek at his proposed lineup for Sarasota, which I did think was interesting because we saw he was currently on a 25-day contract. Hal Uderitz, I think is how you say his last name. Hal, I apologize now for butchering that, but we saw him kind of starting in the center back position with Azario and Yearwood, and then Cisneros almost bumped up into the midfield, kind of playing a 3-4-3 formation. Do you think he's going to stick with that heading into AV Alta, or you think he's got a couple more tricks up his sleeve?
I mean, I'm always a fan of simplifying the game. 3-4-3 definitely helps if you're trying to be defensive because it does basically protect your midfield. That's where Naples has been very vulnerable, and that's where AV Alta scored their first goal against Richmond. So that's always a dangerous spot. Um, I think Torres has been one of our best players this year, and when he's not on the pitch, it always shows. At least it shows to me. Again, when you're struggling with your defense, you need a good strong six in front, and if you don't have a single player who can play, then having a double pivot where you do that four-man second line, that helps solidify it. And it might expose you a little bit on the wings, but you got to hope that your players are going to do enough of the defensive work. So I either see a 4-3-3 or a 3-4-3 as his lineup going forward. And I would say a 4-3-3 just to simplify it. But if he wants to be creative and given the personnel, he might do what you said and just keep this lineup that he drew out for Saturday's game.
Yeah, I was really excited to see this lineup, I think, for Saturday, and was looking forward to seeing them in action. Kind of sad we didn't, but a little bit of extra rest never hurt. I was especially excited. I think like you were spot on with Torres. I think he's been one of our best players this season. Omar Sis, too, the couple games he's played in, I think he's done a really good job of controlling the midfield and having a big presence there. So I was excited to see those two guys together kind of running the midfield. And we keep saying on here, goals have to come from somewhere. So I was curious to see if we did leave three at the top with Macias, Gray, and Migletti up there. Can those three kind of find something, find a way to break through? We got the penalty goal against Madison, and that Madison game, I don't think we played terrible. We just kind of struggled to create big chances. So I think that's what's missing from this team. And, I applaud Zach Gordon for throwing something out there that's different and not just sticking with the status quo and trying to find something different, finding something that works. I guess you mentioned Torres. Has anyone else so far this season really impressed you or stood out? I know it's kind of been a struggle as of late, but who has been your mid-season player of the season?
Well, I mean, look, Farine is always going to be a guy who people talk about, right? Right off the top. He's a guy who changes games and has a lot of impact. He's one of the most difficult wingers to defend against. But unfortunately, feel like sometimes he gets in his own head. So that would be the criticism of him. I was a big fan of Max Glasser, and you look at when this slide started, and it kind of coincides with when Glasser left, and you lost that balance where you had Cisneros on one side, Glasser on the other, and you knew either way you could put a ball up into the corner, and either Cisneros was going to get it on one side or Glasser was going to get it on the other, and then that just gave opportunity for those crosses to come in and those dangerous balls to come in. And then another consistent player is Kevin O'Connor. He's just always been someone you can rely on. It's just a matter of, can this team make it work? Can Zach Gordon make it work? Obviously, Matt Poland, look, I love what he did year one. It was an amazing run. Obviously, questions about what happened in the locker room, and this is a tough job. It's a tough job at any level. When you're in USL League One, it gets even more complicated because you're dealing with different personalities, different temptations for people to get distracted and not have their mind in the game. And you don't want to say that about professional players, but that's the reality of what Matt Poland had to deal with. And you just hope that Zach Gordon has enough gravitas to get these guys to believe, and results are going to say a lot about that moving forward. I think that's where Poland struggles. When you don't get results for 5 in a row, all of a sudden your team's saying, well, why are we running out the same thing, or why are we not, why can't we change something? And we'll have to see.
Yeah, it felt like at times this year it was like almost the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And I think you could kind of tell the frustration of the players as the season went on. I am excited to see what Zach Gordon does and see these new formations. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think Cisneros for me has been probably the player of the season. He seems like every time he pulls the shirt on, he's going to give 110%. And I hope we have more players continue to follow in behind him and continue to put in the effort that he's been putting in and game out. He's definitely been the most exciting player for me, as well as, like you said, Max Glasser, and losing him I think was a big loss, and I hope he's doing well. But we definitely miss him. It's going to be a tall task, and we've got a few. You look on the schedule, and you've got the schedule's kind of falling favorably for us, you hope. With AV Alta coming in on short rest, they just fell to Richmond, and then we do turn around, have to go up to Westchester at the weekend. They've been struggling. We've beaten them once already this season, and then we go back out to AV Alta next Saturday. So if we could, pick up 4 points, call it there, that's, I think, a big step in the right direction. And I think if we want to talk about playoffs, I think we're going to need at least 6 over the next 3 games. But I think if we could get 4 points over the next 3 games, I think I would sign up for that right now.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to say, kudos to any of the FC Naples fans that took the trip up to Sarasota. Um, and unfortunately, that game was obviously called off or postponed. Uh, but I actually think that's a blessing in disguise for Naples and for Zach Gordon. I think Sarasota was going to be a tough place to play in. It's a rivalry. They'd already beat us. So they had the momentum, albeit limited number of games against us. But that was a local rival, and you want to be able to stop this losing streak before it hits double digits, and uh, and that's where AV Alta gives you a great chance. Again, you mentioned it. They're coming in off of short rest. They probably spent all week in the East Coast, so and they're not going to be used to playing in the heat. So let's hope Naples can take advantage of it. Now again, there was bad weather in Sarasota on Saturday. The forecast for Wednesday is not looking great. So let's see if this is a stop-start game where there's lightning and rain. It could be a mess, but I think that'll play into Naples' hands. I think they'll want to grind it out, and they won't be frustrated. AV Alta's just probably thinking about, hey, when are we getting to the hotel? When are we getting to the airport? When are we going home?
Yeah, you hope. At least I certainly hope that's kind of their mentality coming in. AV Alta's been an interesting team this season because it seems like they've had a lot of start stops. They pick up wins, like they beat one Knoxville a couple weeks ago, and then draw it home to Westchester 0-0 without scoring a goal. We saw them play at Richmond. I think Richmond's a tough place to play, a tough place to get points, but they didn't really look up for it. We did see, and one of my players to watch that I've kind of been watching as a Southwest Florida local has been Joaquin Acuna, who, if you follow high school sports or club sports, high school soccer, club soccer down here, he was a standout at Golden Gate, standout at University of North Florida. It's been cool to see him playing in this league. He got a goal at the weekend. I'm curious, with this being his homecoming game, if he's going to get the start and show up and get goals, because we know what he's capable of. But at the same time, we've got Alex BT now, who was on the bench. As a fellow Barron Collier Cougar, I got to support my boy Alex. So maybe we'll see some two Southwest Florida soccer alums out on the field together. But back to AV Alta, they've been very start-stop. They had a big streak of games back in June where they, I think, went 5 unbeaten. But since then, it's kind of been win-loss, draw, win-loss, draw. So I'm curious to see how they do respond. They've not lost back-to-back games since April. So it's going to be interesting to see, is this team going to respond and show some fight? We beat them last year at home 4-1. That was one of our biggest wins of last season. So do you think we're going to be capable of doing that again Wednesday night?
Not 4-1. And thinking about when I was listening to your preview of Sarasota, I was thinking 1-1. I think because that would have been a result that would have made both sides happy. But when I think about now Naples being a home side, a draw is not going to be good enough for me. But I do think a 2-1 victory is possible. I think Naples, look, they have to create the chances. They have to take advantage of those chances. But I think that's one of the things I'm curious to hear your perspective on, because you mentioned some of the new faces for Naples, and has this team had enough time to gel? You look at players like Yearwood, and how many games have they had to really, before you had to a change of management. How hard is it for them to learn a new system, learn new teammates, and come into a struggling side? It's a lot different coming into a team that's on a winning streak, and you're trying to earn minutes from a team that's beating everybody, and now you're coming into a team that is struggling, and it seems like everything's going wrong.
Yeah, Yearwood kind of had it. He was signed knowing he was going to be the new right back and the new Glasser replacement, I think. So he hasn't really had to compete with anything. I think Hudson Gay had kind of been slotted in there before we signed him, and I think Hudson Gay is going to be a great player, another local Fort Myers product, but I think he's still very young and still has a lot to prove at this level. So signing Yearwood, I think, was a great signing for the team. But yeah, he was able to just kind of slot right in. Same with Sis, with Garcia being out. I think we've kind of left a hole in the midfield, and he's been able to step in and fill in that hole. But these guys haven't really had to compete for their time, for their minutes. They've been able to just slide right in and get going from day one. So I don't know if that mentality has shifted at all with them. And, hopefully as we start getting guys like Garcia back, Farine, I saw he's not been on the bench the past couple games. So hopefully, I don't know if he's injured or what's going on there, but hopefully we can get him healthy and him back again, and just kind of getting everyone going again, I think would be is gonna be huge. And having a full squad for Zach Gordon to pick from, I think, is also a big thing, because it seems like we've always had at least somebody out injured this season, and I think that's kind of just it's been rough. It's not having a full depth of squad to pick from is never any fun, and I don't envy those decisions.
No, and look, Miglietti is a guy who we've seen him play, I mean, almost all over the field. But as a striker, I just don't think he commands the attention of the center backs enough in that role. And that's you've got to score goals from that position. We were graced with Hender Long last year. It's been a struggle all season this year to find the consistency from that position, and that's what leads to creating space for everyone else. And that's one of those, there's not a lot of depth there's not a lot of competition in that spot.
Yeah, I think you had, like, we were so blessed with Hender Long, and watching that Madison game, I think seeing their three strikers, and they're all true strikers, where it's like we saw the free kick goal and then just two kind of gritty, grinded out style goals. I think their second goal especially was just a ball played in, and he kind of takes a touch and Delgado kind of fumbles it, and it's in the back of the net next thing you know. And I was sitting there watching it like, how many times do we see Carson Henderlong score a goal just like that? It was like, okay, put the ball in the box, I'll find it, and almost like an Erling Haaland, like, put the ball in the box, I'll find it, I'll score, don't worry. And I think Miglietti is a very technically skilled player, but he's not capable of that. He's not our true striker, but he's very good at holding the ball up, distributing the ball. I think we've seen good glimpses of him this season, and he's been great when called upon to play center back when needed. But I think we are missing that true a striker that can go out there and you say, okay, go score us a goal. We need a goal here. Go get it. And it looked like we had that for a minute with Dominic Backstein, but he's not been named in the past couple squads as well. So not sure what's going on there, if he's hurt as well. We're definitely missing something up there, and hopefully Miglietti can kind of find some sort of form here. And I am excited to see if we do leave Macias and Gray up top with him to kind of help support him. Maybe those guys can all run off each other, because I think those three have kind of been three of the guys that I think have underperformed the most this season for me.
Yeah, and I think it's what you've mentioned, two names, and it's not something you're used to hearing. Farine and Backstein, guys who were starters and then aren't even making the bench or not named to the bench, and there's been no release, a press release that says, hey, they're fighting an injury. I haven't seen any reporting about that, and that's one of the things that worries you. When you hear reports that or speculation that Matt Poland lost the locker room, and then we have a new guy come in, and he's still not naming these guys who, should be marquee players, at least for this level, for this team, should be guys who, hey, look, if you're injured and you can't play full 90, at least you're on the bench so you can be that spark and be that super stub for the last 30. Yeah, I want to see Backstein on the, coming in, running at tired defenses and being that big body. I mean, that's where he's a different profile at striker, where he's just that big body who's at least is going to challenge for every head ball and probably win half of them.
Yeah, and I think we've seen, like, the defenses in this league aren't great, and I think even we saw on Saturday night some of the score lines where, like, we saw a bunch of three twos. I think there's a 5-2 game on Saturday. It's the defenses are kind of there for the taking across the league. There's no team that is super strong back there. So I think having someone to run on and force mistakes at the back, or just if we could kind of get on the front foot more and force something. We saw it against Madison. You put a ball in the box and it hits a guy's hand, and was it a handball? Was it not? Doesn't matter. Referee called it a handball. Now we've got a penalty kick. I think if we could just create more chances like that, it seems like everyone's almost stepped up, like trying to become the hero, and like, okay, I'm going to be the guy that scores the screamer from outside the box. And, Farine had the great goal against Portland back around 4th of July. But I think we can't do that. And we need to make something, work something, and break down teams. And I don't think we've been very capable of doing that yet this season. So hopefully things can change, and hopefully Wednesday night's a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, I was thinking about that against Portland. Talking about players that just felt like they had to score and had to put the game on their back. And there were times when I'm trying to think if it was it Garcia, that could have had opportunities where he could have passed and made the right pass and made the right choice, and you helped Naples win, as opposed to saying, no, I got to do it all on my own. Playing with a chip on their shoulder. It was to me, it was selfish, and I think that's part of what I struggle with in saying, what is it? What is this team's mindset? Are they thinking, hey, let's rally, let's play as a team, and that'll help us get success, as opposed to saying, no, I got to be the superstar because I wanna move on and move up.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of hope, like, with Zach Gordon coming in too, the players haven't written off the season. We've seen, and like as a player too, you kind of you just hit a wall, and it's like, yeah, just can we just auto save and play to the next season? Like I don't want to play anymore. And that's where you hope that he can kind of come in, get these guys really fired up. And I mean, maybe if they're all listening to this ahead of the AV Alta game, get fired up. And there's still so much to play for this season. Like, yes, we're in August now, but we still have the rest of August, all of September, and all of October to play. Like, we've still got 3 full months of soccer ahead of us. Like, there's crazier things have happened. I think this team is still capable of turning the season around, righting the ship, and who knows, maybe we sneak into the playoffs on the last day. And once you get into that single elimination style tournament, anything's possible. And I'd still, on paper, I'd back these guys to beat anybody on any given day. And I think they're more than capable of that. I mean, this is a team that went against an MLS side and should have drawn them 1-1. So I think they're more than capable of doing it. It's just kind of fixing the mentality and getting these guys fired up, and just kind of getting back to being able to the basics and being able to break a team down at the back and create chances. And it's like I know they're capable of it, and I think that's why I get frustrated too in watching it, because it's like we know what they're capable of. We saw it at the start of the season. It's like, what happened to that? Let's get back to that. Let's right the ship, and let's start picking up points again.
The thing that I always frustrated me with Matt Poland at the helm was it felt like the team played a 4-1-4-1, but when it was late in the game, you would see this team basically put 5 guys across the top, and they were always trying. No one was challenging. No one was making a run to try to shift the defense. It was just 5 guys standing across the top. So there's no lanes, there's no half space to play in, and I struggle to figure. I mean, I guess it would be O'Connor, but I don't see it this year. I don't see a true standout 10. So if you're playing without a 10 and without a striker, or without a quality striker, that's where it's going to be hard to create chances. But O'Connor seems to do it more often than not. But I think he does it from too far back, and he's not in an advanced enough position So that's one of the things I'm going to look forward to. Like what you're saying, when if you have good solid front line and a trio that has opportunity to build familiarity with each other and they can play off each other, that'll be huge.
Yeah, I think O'Connor's been, I think, good this season, but it almost seems like he's not able to get as far forward because he's worried about us losing the ball and then leaving the guys at the back open and defenseless. So yeah, I think if we do have that trio up top and kind of strengthening that defense and giving him more backup in the midfield almost, with letting Torres kind of sit further back as well as Omar Sis, I'm curious to see what that is all going to look like. I am excited and kind of have a positive outlook looking ahead to AV Alta. Like, it's like, okay, we're back home for the first time in a month. They're coming off a short rest. We've got an extra half week of rest here. I think we're capable of something here and causing a little bit of damage and righting the ship. I know I keep saying it, and it's become a cliche of, if Farine can just get one goal, all the rest of the goals are going to come. If Macias can just get one goal, all the rest of the goals are going to come. I do still feel like that if we can get one win, who's to say then we don't go up to Westchester the next weekend and win, and then go out to AV Alta and win. And, I think then we can start looking more ahead and being more positive and getting these guys going again and having fun again. It's a lot more fun to win than lose, I'm sure, as we're all aware of. But I think I have a positive outlook for Wednesday.
Yeah, well, but it's crazy to think, again, you kind of referenced it. This is the first home game in a month. It's going to be the first ever home game for FC Naples without Matt Poland on the sideline. And I think you guys are talking about it. Zach Gordon, what's he going to wear, for the home game? Is he going to be wearing the shorts and the gray T-shirt and the baseball cap, or is he going to be like, hey, I gotta, let my wife dress me and maybe put on a polo shirt and go out there and pants and just look a little bit more the part.
Yeah, I think he's got to go to like the Tommy Bahama store off a Third or rock something Naples, or like a lifeguard hoodie or something. It's gonna be too hot for a hoodie, but he's got to look the Naples part, right? I think, or put on a pair of pants. I appreciate the shorts, but unless it's like a pair of board shorts, I think he's gotta look like the leading man.
Well, that's the collaboration that everyone's hoping for. Is I've seen the Tommy Bahama shirts with Mickey Mouse on the back, because of Orlando. Let's get the Tommy Bahama FC Naples collaboration going, where you see the soccer ball and the Naples logo up there, and there you go. Then you can wear that on the sidelines.
Yeah, we've got the bucket hats. I think if we could get I would pay really good money, I think, for a button down Tommy Bahama, like Hawaiian style FC Naples shirt.
There you go.
I think that could be a giveaway too for one of the beach night or something. Who knows? But yeah, I'm looking forward to being home, and I've got still have some beer chips for the beer garden burning a hole in my pocket. So excited to cash some more of those in for some more FC Naples Blonde.
Yeah, there you go.
Michael, so we always end with our scoreline predictions. What is going to be your score prediction for AV Alta?
Yeah, I think we're going to get it done. I think it's going to be 2-1. I don't think it's going to be easy. I'm going to tell you again, the defense is still an opportunity. But you said Yearwood came in and didn't have to compete, but you also referenced that 3-4-3, and he was playing that third man in a three-man back line. Look, when your defense is struggling, especially your two center backs, and I think they've struggled the most on their distribution. They're good defenders, but the problem is when they make that stop, what do they do with the ball? And if they have easy outlets and they can get a little more comfortable with the short passes and not having to always look 30 yards upfield for that pass, if they can just come to the outlets and they're going to be compact, have always a player next to them, but then have those wing outlets. I think they'll be able to hold AV Alta to that one goal, and we'll be able to figure out how to get two.
I like that. I think I'm going to go, if we can get a 1-0, I think that will accomplish 2 goals. We scored a goal, which we haven't always been able to do. And we kept a clean sheet, which we also have struggled to do as of late. So I think if we can get both of those done at home, sure, call it boring, 1-0, boring win at home, but it's a win, it's 3 points, and it's a clean sheet. I think that'll kind of push us into the right direction for the rest of the season to come. I'm hopeful if we can pick up anything here, I'd even take a 1-1 or a 2-2. But I'm hopeful for my 1-0 to come true.
Yeah, they need to give the fans something to cheer about again. And that Portland game, it was a heartbreaker. It was just
It
really
was.
tough.
It was, yeah. It felt like we had won it, and then in the span of 4 minutes, we had tied it and then lost it, and that was a roller coaster of emotions there at the end.
But I think Portland showed you how Naples played last year and how Naples wants to play.
Right.
And they just weren't getting it done. And I think that you always want to have aspirations, and that's what those players should be looking at. They hopefully they sat there, took it in, watching Portland celebrate on their field, and said, okay, what do we have to do to get there? But now obviously it hasn't shown up in the 4 games after that. But now they have a chance to right the ship.
Yeah, I think we're more than capable of it, and it's just the game's not played on paper. We gotta show up and show out every game now, and it's just going to become almost. I think we've got 13, 14 games left, and it's just going to become 14 cup matches, just all to play for every week.
Yeah, that's enough games to get the points you need.
More than enough. Michael, anything else you want to add before we close out here?
No, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate what you and Paul do week in and week out, and I'm glad to be able to fill in and talk FC Naples, and let's go out there on Wednesday and get the 3.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you so much for filling in for us, and hope to have you back again soon. Thank you all so much again for listening. Be sure to follow us at Forza Naples Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Until next time, Forza Naples.